Hello, everyone, and welcome to NeuroAdvanced Academics Live, where we focus on neuroscience, education, and parenting tips. And we're so excited tonight to have an awesome group of panelists as we discuss in episode 4, emphasizing the student and student athlete. So go ahead and share this to with your friends and family. You don't want to miss this conversation. It's going to be absolutely amazing. So while you're sharing this with your family and friends, neuroeducator Yancey is going to introduce our panelists on tonight.
Yes, I want to say thank you again to all of our panelists for giving us your personal time this evening. So as I introduce everyone, first up we have Mr. T.Y. McGill Jr., defensive tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles, founder and owner of Overtime Athletics. Next we have Coach B. Coach B is the founder and eligibility specialist for Moving Without the Ball. Next we have Coach Devon Johnson. He is the head football coach of Imhotep Institute Charter High School, ranked #1 in Pennsylvania. We also have Coach Kevin Norris, assistant head football coach at Imhotep Charter High School. We also have Coach Caela LaRochester, head junior varsity basketball coach, assistant varsity girls basketball coach at Long County High School in Georgia. And we also have Coach Katal Yancey. He's the co-founder of the legendary Black Lions Incorporated nonprofit youth organization and owner and head coach of the legendary Black Lions football team of Glenville, Georgia. Thank you all so much. And we will go ahead and jump right in with our first question. Neuroeducator Posey.
So the first question we want to start off with on this conversation, we want to know, how would you all define what is a student athlete?
Yes, thank you for having me. First of all, NeuroAdvanced Academics, we appreciate you, doing this panel, something that's needed. My name is Devon Johnson, and I'm the head football coach at Imhotep Charter High School. And my definition of, the definition of a student athlete, in the literal sense, is any student at the elementary, middle, high school, or collegiate level that participates in an athletic sport. It's a common thing that everyone says is, you have a student athlete, the student comes first. And I generally do agree with that statement. However, one of the things that I really emphasize, if you want to be a successful student athlete, you got to be someone that can be able to balance both. Because, like I said, I coach at Imhotep Charter High School, which is in inner city Philadelphia. And, we pride ourselves on being competitive in both the classroom and on the football field. However, one of the points of pride is the amount of kids that we can send to that next level, so the college level. And we need to prepare them for that. You got to be able to balance both, because at that next level, they're not going to allow you to miss practice because, you didn't complete a homework assignment or you have too much work and stuff like that. So we make sure that our student athletes understand that you got to be able to balance both. That means you have to be on point in the classroom. You got to be able to be good with time management. You got to be able to be good with turning in work on time and things like that. So in our program, we allow kids to miss because of that, because at the end of the day, academics does come first. However, it is consequences for that if it was because they were lacking on their part. So, we hold them accountable for that, because at that next level, you got to be able to balance both in order to be successful. And if you can't, then we're always going to err on, well, maybe you should just be a student, because academics absolutely in the end comes first.
I'd like to piggyback off that if I can. For me, I'm Coach B. We're Moving Out the Ball. And my view of a student athlete, my definition of a student athlete is any student that chooses to do anything extracurricular. That could be, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a sport. It could be band. It could be anything that they've chosen to do something outside of themselves, greater than themselves. It adds something to them. So I consider any student that has chosen to do something more than just be a student, I consider them a student athlete, because it does take that time management, the organization that our student athletes have. So I view that any student that chooses to be a part of something that's greater than themselves, I lump them into a student athlete, because they do have different opportunities, because they have chosen to commit to something bigger than themselves. But I like what Coach said, though.
Yes, thank you.
I definitely agree on that. You guys can, explain that more better than the definition of, a student athlete. But Like, Coach, what was your name again, Coach? I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Devon Johnson.
Coach Johnson, yeah, like you said, you know, teaching them now, because, you know, when I got to the collegiate level, I thought student athletes started then. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't locked in high school and middle school on, you know, prioritizing and what it really meant to be a student athlete. Like I said, I thought that happened once I got to college. So for you and your team to be molding these young men and women now is pivotal for their success once they get to that collegiate level. And that's just all I wanted to kind of put on that, because like you said, that time management is so critical. Like going to college, being a student is one thing, but going to college and having extracurricular is a whole other, because you don't really control that. Your day is strategically scheduled every day, from sun up to sundown, when you eat, when you sleep, practice, so on and so forth. So on top of that, not only is something that you got to be committed to this. You know what I'm saying? You can't just be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You really got to be committed to this student athlete life. Like it's a tough one, but it pays out in the end.
Thank you so much for your responses. Those are amazing. So just to recap, that a student athlete is not just sports. It can be anyone who commits to anything extracurricular outside of being a student. That means accountability, that means balance, that means commitment. Okay. And that's starting before you get to the college level. That's starting at whatever point you're at, whenever you make that commitment to be that student athlete. So thank you all so much. We'll move on to our second question. And that question is: a long-standing racist and ill-informed stereotype projects a Black person as athletic, skillful, fast, yet intellectually deficit. What practices do you all use to change this narrative?
Well, for me, this is something I see a lot where I work. The kids, they fall into that category, and a lot of times they are fit into like a checkbox. This is the type of student that they are. And me being younger and knowing a lot of them since they've grown up, you have to meet them where they're at. And like I went to school for special education. So we talked a lot about differentiating in the classroom. And that's just, you know, tailoring a learning style, skills for specific students in the classroom. And that's what I do for those kids. And not just, you know, the Black students, you do it for all of them. But more so our Black kids, I knew what it was like just a few years ago, sitting in the same classroom, you know, learning the same materials that they were, and how some teachers I had projected that on me. And when you come in and you say, okay, you're good, you know, sport-wise, they come with the mentality of, okay, you're not going to be that good in the classroom. We'll take the same, let's say the same language you use on the court. You bring that into the classroom and put it on a level to where they can understand. They'll better receive what you're giving them, whether it's the materials you're teaching or whatever it is. They'll respect you more. And coming in, I've only been teaching for 4 years, but coming in with that mentality, the feedback I got from it was really good. And it helped me not only as a teacher, but as a coach too, to say, hey, you know, I can encourage you on the court. You know, you do a good job here. Let me take that and bring it into the classroom to pull out the best of you in the classroom as well. So
that's a great answer. And I also think the approach that I kind of try to take is we coach at an African Center school, right? So where the stereotype isn't so much about an athlete doesn't have to really be a good student, right? So the way we push it is we try to tell our students, if you can learn all the hip hop and you can learn all the words to songs and you can learn every play we give you within a few seconds, when you sit into a classroom, you can learn everything the teacher is giving you. Like, there really is no option for you to fail in this setting. All the resources are provided for you, especially at our institution, I know it is. All of our teachers are accessible at any time. If you choose to say, I didn't understand, but you can tell me that you didn't reach out to your facilitator, then I can't accept that for an answer. So we just push that in order for you to be an exceptional athlete, we know you're good as an athlete, right? Because otherwise you wouldn't be a part of our program. But stop working as hard on your athleticism, and not saying stop working, but make your academics meet it, right? So it's like being right-handed, left-handed. I'm really good at my right hand, so I'm gonna do everything with my right hand, but my left hand is weak. Well, put the weights in your left hand, and even the scale, and we just push them to make sure that your learning ability is equal to your athletic ability. And I think that's big in today's society, where at one point in the inner city, kids that were athletes were being pushed through because they were athletes. But we're trying to break that stereotype, and we're trying to get our kids, when they graduate, to not go to a college and have to academically redshirt because they weren't ready. We want you to be ready for 4 years. We don't want you to be in school for 6 years because you had to do some catching up. That's just not one of the options that we provide for our students. And I think that's big, especially, for our young African-American kings.
I like to add as well, what my goal is, I want student athletes to see themselves as something other than an athlete. My joke is you only have about 100,000 sprints on them kneecaps. So therefore, eventually you're gonna have to put the ball down at some point and pick up your career. So we want them to see themselves as a professional as something other than sports. There is a few elite of us that are able to go play professional sports, which is awesome. But the majority of our players will be professional teachers, educators, lawyers, doctors. So we want our student athletes to start to see themselves outside the role of an athlete. Dr. Jim Kufu says that what you do most is that what you do best. And basically saying that we need to have an equal amount of commitment to the academics and the athletics to have a well-rounded student athlete. Because a lot of times we wind up putting so much focus on the athletics that when that ball drops, when they injury or academics, they don't have any other options. And that's where we see those student athletes that are just dropping out, or they don't have anywhere else to go. So our focus is to make sure that, yes, you want to play sports, and that's awesome, but use that as a catalyst to get you to somewhere else. Because eventually every professional athlete has to stop playing. Your machine only lasts for so long. So we want them to start knowing early is that I want to play sports. I'm going to use that to get out of whatever situation I'm in. But I also have to realize that eventually when I stop playing sports, what am I going to be then? And that's what we want to change that mindset, saying, how do we change them saying, I'm an athlete, but I'm going to be a professional something when I grow up. So, and that's our goal, is getting them to see themselves in a bigger role than just a student, just an athlete.
Absolutely, and I agree with that 1,010%. One of the things that we try to do, and Coach Kev is, being modest about it, but he's in charge of our academics, like really checking in with the students, on a daily basis. But one of the things we try to make the students do is, like Coach said, was, like understand that football or like, sports in general isn't the end all be all, but use it as the conduit to get what you want out of it, So one of the things that we found to be successful is when our student athletes are actually taking an active role in their education. So a lot of times, they're sitting there, they get their roster, they're taking the classes, and they don't really see how everything that they're doing from the time they get into 9th grade until 12th grade, is affecting those future goals. So if you tell them you want to be a college athlete, then you need to, all right, let's sit down here and look at it. Every year at the end of the year, we look at your credits. It's like, okay, you're good here, here, here. This is what you need to work on. Here's what you need to take next year. Like you need to be really focusing on these classes. So now our student athletes it's a constant conversation that, okay, here's where I am, here's where I need to be. And it's not just us giving them classes and telling you go in there and you pass them. No, they're taking an active role in their education to see exactly how their performance is having a positive or a negative effect on their future goals. Coach Kev, one of the practices that we do is we do these credit audits with our players at the end of 9th grade, because that's when a lot of our student athletes slip up, is in 9th and 10th grade when they're not being recruited. So they try to catch up on 11th and 12th, and sometimes it's too late. So we want you to take that into consideration early so that now you already know, like, this is what I have to do, because it don't matter how many touchdowns you score, how many baskets that you get. If you don't have those grades, you can't play at that next level. So we really make them take a active role in their own education. I think that's something that's kind of taken for granted a lot of times. The counselors give them their schedules and they just take it, so they end up becoming robots. But if they actually see, and they're involved in it, and they see like, okay, this is where I'm lacking, this is where I'm doing good at. Like it's a constant conversation. Coach Kev, he sends out every 2 weeks. We're in a group chat with our moms, our parents, the player, the position coaches and stuff like that, letting you know, like, here's where you are academically at this time. So it's a family thing. So everyone is having say in it. It's no surprises when we get in front of a college coach and they know exactly what their core GPA is. They know everything that is. So because they've been actively involved in their education.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to piggyback on y'all. I'm doing it at a younger level with the kids. So as our organization does, we try to start drilling it into them early because like where I'm from, I'm originally from Detroit. So back in the 90s and stuff like that, it wasn't really like that, but we offer, like, I started talking to them about finances, education, offer classes on it. I get people to come in because I had people that I had a college athlete that graduated with finance, and he played football. He came and talked to the kids one time. Just little stuff like that I started to try to do,
But that's it though. That's the stuff that we're not teaching in school. We're not teaching financial literacy. We're not teaching how to write checks, how to balance your checkbooks, how to pay bills. We're not teaching that stuff, right? So we already lost, because once we get out, we don't understand this type of stuff, and that's the stuff we need. But just going back, like I get to the point where you got to be blunt. You got to tell some of these kids, like, look, there's a good chance you might not make it to the college, well, to the NFL, to the NBA. You might not be there. So what's gonna be that back plan, right? What are we doing now to set us up for when that time doesn't come, or when the time comes to hang up the cleats or the tennis shoes? That's the important thing. And I actually myself, I'm going on my 7th season in the NFL. And I went through an externship course this year, just to kind of get my feet wet in the terms of what is it, I really want to do, you know what I'm saying? And kind of seeing stuff like that. So it just brought, just opened my eye a lot to the fact that, you can't do this forever, whether it's whatever the case may be. Like, you gotta have some type of career after sport, whether you're working for the man or you are the man. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I have.
Yes, thank you all so much for those amazing responses. So we want to make sure that we're meeting our scholars where they are. We don't want to box them in. We don't want to put them in, have them checking boxes off. We want to hold them accountable and and also allow them to feel like they are playing an active role in their education. Get them involved, get their parents involved, create that support system so that they feel that support from all around them, and that way they excel through to the next level, because ultimately that's all our goal, is to allow our students to create those opportunities for our student athletes to excel to the next level. So just to kind of reset everything really quickly, I want to take a quick moment to introduce Mr. Danny Pendleton. He is a basketball player development specialist and educator for the District of Philadelphia. Thank you, Mr. Pendleton, for joining us this evening. All right, so for those of you that are just joining us, we are NeuroAdvanced Academics, and we are speaking on emphasizing the student and student athletes. I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening as we move on to our next question. All right, so coaches, I want you all to explain to the viewers, what is player development and what role does that play in problem solving and critical thinking skills?
I guess I'll go ahead and get started. As far as I coached basketball for a long time, boys and girls basketball, and player development, if we're talking about academics or athletes, we're talking about the well-rounded player. well, we know all about conditioning and competing and getting their bodies ready, but we also have to get them mentally prepared as well. So when I think about player development, I'm not just thinking about getting their bodies together, but also getting them mentally prepared to compete, as well as mentally prepared to handle the student athlete lifestyle. So kind of going back to your question, as for me, I think you need to look at the entire athlete, not just the physical, the one that's going to put the points on the board, but also when they're off the court. Are we providing them with social and behavioral help? Are we financial literacy we talked about earlier? Are we looking at, like Coach LaRochester said, are we looking at this student athlete and meeting them where they are? Everybody's different. Everybody has their own needs that they have. Are we providing those services that we know our student athletes need? If we have students that are dealing with some issues and they need somebody to talk to, are we finding someone for them to talk to? Because a lot of times as coaches, we feel like we can do it all, but we're not certified psychologists or sociologists. So a lot of times we're just going off of our own trauma and what we're trying to help them deal with. But are we providing those other services in our communities that our student athletes could use? So absolutely using the conditioning, getting their bodies prepared, but also making sure that they're mentally prepared for the demands of being a student athlete.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
definitely. And sorry about that.
oh, who's that? Somebody, you can go ahead, bro.
No, I was just going to elaborate. The mindset is very key for student athletes to be stable. You get to see how fragile the Black mind is when it's dealt with pressure. So you got to always be willing to take a step back. And not always try to make the options for the student athlete, but allow them to come up with their own scenario and goals. Because sometimes we have goals for them because we have needs for them to compete at a certain level, but sometimes they're not able to reach that level mentally. It's not always about the physical caliber. Sometimes it's just about their emotional concept of what they already experiencing. And you have to actually still allow them to set their own goals through their turmoil, because that's part of maturity. And through maturity becomes a diamond. You never know what they can develop into. So, I definitely think that the mindset is key. We're not psychologists, but you kind of feel like you are at times, because you're dealing with problems that happens both on the court and off the court, or on the field or off the field, or in the classroom. And sometimes they struggle, but you see a lot of times that you probably their number one supporter. Or you're probably like their biggest fan, or you're telling them something that somebody else is telling them that they can't do, or that they telling themselves that they can't do. So, just always give confidence for them. You never know what they're going through.
Yeah, I was gonna pretty much say what he was saying. And also, it's good that we still try to provide far as mentor, because I mentor too. So I'd had kids where I done seen a D1 kid go through school and still feel like they don't fit. I'm like, man, I'm asking like, why you ain't got a scholarship offer or nothing? Like, you fit all the criteria, you got the grades, you run around with a 3.5 average, everything. And I'm like, man, what's going on? Well, coach, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like I could. I was like, well, what the coaches? Have you talked to the coaches or anything? And sometimes it works out for them, sometimes it don't. But like as far as that, I say that just as early as we can get a hold of them, start the process of like what I started earlier, like having that what I was talking about earlier, having that, like y'all said, the academic plan, the financial plan, because a lot of kids, especially a lot of athletes, they don't really have nothing to fall back on, because from what I've noticed in my walk is that usually your social status is not that of that they think about even training you to be financially literate, have the mental capacity to understand that your education is going to I'm trying to think of the words to say that your education will get you to get you higher than your athletic ability. because you can be the best athlete running around. Because when I was coming out, I was one of the top guys coming out, and I was the first generation as far as going to college. And everything around me, the way everything around me was, my mom was like, "Hey, the police not knocking on my door, and you about to graduate? Okay, I'm fine." I was doing everything else under the sun. Coaches, I had ex-NFL players telling me you gonna make it. All my coaches like, yeah, you good, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, get your grades up. And I'm like, whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm good. Because they used to call me Al Bundy because I did that's telling my age now, but how I used to do in games. So, but then I got to like my 11th grade year, and because I thought that nobody wanted me, and I got like to my 11th grade year, and I'm sitting there with all these D1 offers, well, not offers yet, but just all the mail coming saying that, hey, we want to offer you a scholarship. Send us your stuff. I hadn't did what is it? Shoot, I hadn't did my 2 hours yet. I hadn't looked at my grades for real. My counselors wasn't on my grades like they were supposed to be. So it was so much stuff out of whack with me. It tore all that down. It all got snatched away from me just like that. And I was just not realizing that I had potential to even really play, you know, at the next level like that. So that's why.
That wasn't even like, not to kind of get off the topic, but that wasn't even your fault. You know what I'm saying? That's why we doing this now. Because like, you a kid. At that time, you a kid. You learn. We only learn as we get older, which is crazy, right? Like, you got to go through stuff. You got to really mess up in order to like learn from something. It's kind of crazy, but that's just all it was. If you had, because similar situation, I had a coach in high school. Like my last year, you know, my grades was always, you know, decent, but he got on to me like, "Hey man, you got to take the SAT, you know." I took it the first time. I didn't do well because I didn't know how to take it. He made sure I went back. He put me in the SAT prep class to learn how to take the test. Did well on it. You know, everything went, you know, great from there. But it's just like, just having somebody in your corner to be like, this is the way you need to go. What we're doing now is just sharing our scars. Like, we all have 28, I don't know how old everybody is, but however old you is, that's how, you know, that's how long you done be getting scars. You know what I'm saying? And a kid that's 15 or 16 can't see that. He or she doesn't know what you done been through. So that's why you going back to say, hey, look, take the SAT prep class. Learn how to take it. This is going to get you there. That's going to get you, you know, we trying to give them a roadmap to success. But at the end of the day now, you got to be able to retain the information and want to do better for yourself. Now, you can't make that. Like, you can't make nobody do that now. But, you know, you only can do your part.
I think a big part too, especially when it comes to player development. I think first and foremost is you have to make a kid or a young person feel comfortable, right? And I think in today's society, as adults, really naturally, we don't even listen to what a kid is saying, regardless of what they're saying, right? We don't really listen to what they say. We don't necessarily talk over them, but we kind of tell them what we want. And we don't take the first step to saying, talk to me. Tell me what it is you want. And then let's build a plan for you and let's work towards that plan together. And I think that's the first stage in player development, is really seeing where their heads are, right? And I saw in the comments where someone said we have to teach them kids how to talk to people. And I think the big thing with that is them having confidence, being able to differentiate from talking to their friends in the street to having a conversation with a college coach and being able to say, you know, how you doing, sir? Or how you doing, ma'am? Yes, my name is, instead of answering question, yeah, no, I got you, coach. Like, we first have to teach them to be comfortable with using words they already know, right? So in developing who they are, at some point will allow them to develop as student athletes. And we just have to be mindful that if we just take a second to listen and really understand where they're coming from and maybe what it is they want, is a lot easier to guide them in direction and then show them the things that's maybe on their mind. And then as time goes on, they start to talk more, right? They start to have, they start to use the words that they've grown up knowing, they just choose not to use. And they start to develop at that point. And it makes things easier because they're not talking or they're not sitting in front of us uptight. They can take a deep breath and feel comfortable with having words and conversations with people that they may not know, right? Most athletes in today's society, and there's no knock on parents, but they spend the majority of their time with their coaches. So, you know, when we say we're not psychologists and we're not this and we're not that, we are everything. We're father figures, we're mother figures, we're coaches, we're teachers, we're psychiatrists, we damage control, we provide lunch, we provide breakfast, you name it, that's just what we do. And we wear those many hats, and we have to be willing to give our kids, okay, look, I'm gonna feed you, but I need you to do this for me. When you speak to this young man or you speak to this woman today, I need 3 sentences every question they ask you. And if you're uncomfortable early, that's fine. But the longer we talk, the more comfortable you get. And then we build from that. And I think that's the first part of developing young people. And we just have to, like I said, it all goes back to just listening to them and letting them see if they have a plan and helping them mold that plan and growing from day to day. It's not going to be overnight, but we just have to help them. We just have to mold them.
And can I add one more thing? Just going back to Coach from the legendary Black Lions in Glenville. When you were talking about, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name. I wrote down the legendary Black Lions because I love that off the top. But when you were talking about when you were in school and you were playing ball and everybody kept telling you that you were great, you were going somewhere. And I really think about just talking about that player development. We have to change the mindset from a not having enough to a mindset of abundance. I am more than enough. And I think a lot of our kids don't see themselves in anything bigger. They don't see the college coaches that look like us. So therefore they're afraid. They don't see the kids that look like them coming back talking and telling them that you can be there. So we have to change that mindset of saying that I'm not enough or just my athleticism is going to get me there, saying that God has given you more than enough to do any and everything you want to do. And we have to feed that into our kids young and saying that you are worthy, you deserve this. Because I think that in our community, our culture, we have this thing as far as we're going to dangle this carrot of athletics in front of our players, and that's your only route to getting to school. And if you don't make it by that, then you don't make it at all. You're worthless. So we have to change that culture, saying that they go from the mindset of lack and I'm good at sports but not good at anything else, to saying that you are more than enough, and start feeding that into them early as possible, saying that you are more than enough. And I tell my student athletes this is a mantra. I'm a student athlete, so I live by a different set of rules. And if they live by that every day, then they're going to continue, that bar is going to go higher and higher. And they're going to feel like they can go talk to anybody because they won't be afraid, because they know that what I have is a gift from me, and I'm able to share that. So we've got to change the culture in our community of our Black and brown babies, saying that you are more than just an athlete. You are in abundance. You have a mindset that you can do anything that you want to do, that you put a plan to it and you put your work behind it, you can achieve it. So if we change that mindset with our parents, with our coaches, with our teachers in the school, with everybody teaching these student athletes that they are more than enough and not just a jersey, then that will change the culture as well. And I just want to add that real quick, because when Coach said that, I was like, I know so many student athletes that if they don't get that D, if they think they're D1, they have to go D2. It's like, oh, the world is over with. But the degree is still the same, D1, D2, or D3. So
that might be a better opportunity.
Absolutely. It's a lot of ballers at a D2 and D3 school right now. So we have to change that culture, saying it doesn't matter where you go as long as you go. It don't matter what name on the paper as long as you have that paper. So we have to start going from a mindset of lack and not enough to a mindset of abundance, and I can get anything that's out there because it's waiting on me to go get it. So I just want to add that.
Wow, this conversation is absolutely amazing. So just in a nutshell, we discussed that player development goes beyond conditioning, but it's really analyzing to see where the player is mentally and providing solutions for them that will support them mentally, socially, and their behavioral health, as well as focusing on their mental well-being. So that's going to take us into our next question. So research studies have shown that sports play a huge role in motor skill development, mental processing, problem solving, social awareness, verbal and nonverbal communication skills. What can parents do to determine what sports their children are interested in, and what age should parents allow their children to be involved in the sports?
Well, I have a 3-year-old, and my take on this is put them in anything. Put them in any and everything you possibly can from the jump. Introduce everything you possibly can in the beginning, and just see where it goes. See how they like it, how they react to it. You know, with Grayson, he gets frustrated with some stuff, and I know, okay, he doesn't like this. But then maybe later on down the line, he'll go back to it. Just introduce whatever to him. When he's old enough to start playing recreational sports, I'm putting him in everything I possibly can just to see how he reacts. If he likes it, we'll go with it. If he doesn't like it, if there's room there for him to learn to like it, develop some sort of skills, be open to it. Don't just sit back and say, well, maybe he'll like something later on down the line. I didn't start playing sports until the 6th grade. Growing up the way that I did, my mama didn't know what we would like. And when I came and told her I wanted to play basketball, she was shocked. Rolled the bench my first 2 years, uncoordinated, didn't have a clue. And now looking back, everybody I played with, they started when rec ball. They all played rec ball together and came up. And I just feel like you don't want to let your kids miss out on those opportunities, because it's a lot of room for them to learn and to start, to love a sport, even at a young age. And I wish I would have had the opportunity to do that back then. But, one big thing I also say with that is to be patient with your kids, because they're not going to have it all the time. And I feel like at a young age, some parents develop this mentality of, my child is going to be great at this sport because I was. It doesn't work that way. Nope. It does not work that way at all. So you have to be patient and be realistic in their abilities. You may want them to be good at a certain sport, but that does not mean that is what's going to happen. But I would say put them in every single thing you can as early as you can.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that, because I've been in sports. I've been playing ball since I was like 5, right? Like, that's just what I've been doing. Country boy, love ball. But I believe, like you said, put them in everything, in everything. But coordination is key. Like you said, you didn't have that coordination until you started playing. So like, that's one thing. I don't care if my kids like play sports or even love it. I just want that coordination. I want that health. And I want that camaraderie, that team building, that team bonding, and just being around and seeing other kids. They playing in all diverse leagues. Like, it's not gonna be, they playing, the city league where it's just, African American, or up in Sweetwater where it's just, Caucasians. No, we mixing it up, and I just think that's important for growth as well, mentally. Just to see that, everybody, that these people don't look like me, but I can still be able to ball with them, because my wife is white, so I got a mixed child, and I think it's very important for them to understand that. So I just, I can't wait. I got a little girl, and I got another one on the way, so I just can't wait to be able to, not only for them, but for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm an athlete, I'm a competitor, so I want to be out there with them. I want to be that dad that's running around crazy, because my daughter done hit the softball over the field or something. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, I just think that's dope. I just think that's really dope.
Yeah, I think growing up, we played every sport imaginable outside. Like, we'd wake up on a Saturday morning and be outside from 8 in the morning till 8 at night, drinking water from somebody's side faucet, right? So it was nothing we didn't play, right? And the one thing my mom never did was she never pushed me to a sport. She never pushed me to like anything. She said, if you like it, I love it. I'm going to be there to cheer. And I guess looking back at it now, she thought he going to fall in love with one of them and it's going to be great. I think parents today, there's so much training and things you can provide for kids nowadays that parents have a kid and they want them to play basketball. They want them to play football, and they make them go to these trainers 5, 6, 7 days a week. And at a young age, there is a such thing as burning the kid out, right? And the kid cannot like a sport because they've done it too much at a young age. And I think we just have to let them pick the sport they want, right? And it's okay to get them trainers once they realize what they really love. You know, a kid loves a sport when they start going out and practicing on their own, right? And as a parent, you say, you know what? I got one. I don't care what sport it is. My sons love playing football, and my one son loved to play football and basketball. I thought he sucked at basketball, but look, you go ahead and play. And when you want to train, if you say, look, can you get me a trainer? I know you really love it. Thank God he didn't choose basketball. But we got to let them choose it and then put them in a place where they can get better. Give them an opportunity to get that training and let them love it. But when you push too hard, a kid will love to hate a sport just as much as they start to love it. And we got to be conscious and careful of that, because it's too much. It's too many distractions out here in today's society that once you're off of something, it's something else to pick up right away. It ain't gonna necessarily always be a good thing.
Yeah, I piggyback off everybody. As soon as they develop motor skills, hey, start letting them get at it. If it's whatever kind of sports you can, the little balls that you can buy from Walmart or whatever, hey, take them, put them in front of them, and see which one they choose, and start throwing them in it. That's where I'm at with that, because I got a small story. I had some kids that mama would not let them play football. I was begging her. These kids, shoot, when they turned, I think 10, they was almost my size already. The mom still was like, no, ain't nobody about to be hitting my baby. I said, do you know what your kids are athletically? Because I seen them moving around and stuff. It was like, we don't let them do anything. I was like, wow. So it took me a little while. I finally got them out there on the field, and now they're excellent. And there's a set of twins. They're excellent. And they were just because they were gone for a little while. They moved to Virginia for a little while, and our youth organization playing the league called AYF. So it's a national league, and they truly crown a national champ. And them boys, with the team they was with in Virginia, they came in, I think, 3rd place. They almost, and they were a big part of that team. So that's why I say if they would have been in there earlier, they probably could have made more of an impact. And then, like in the area I'm in now, with a lot of the kids here, they have nothing to do, but you see them running around doing athletic stuff, and the parents won't let them do it. I'm like, hey, just put them in something. Go ahead.
I agree 1,000% with what everyone said. I do believe that they should play sports at the earliest that they can. It teaches you so many things just outside of that sport, leadership, camaraderie, like all those things, and that's really a big debate in sports, about, as far as like choosing sports and things like that. And like my take on that one is just at the early ages, they should be able to, see and play every single sport that they want. Like Coach Kev was saying, but it's also a part of you being vigilant, and a part of your student, your kid's life, and seeing, because like what's really going to separate them, like when you start seeing like the difference between like the great ones and the ones that are elite, the good and the greats and stuff like that, is that love and that passion that they have for it. So I feel like, 1st through 8th, let them try whatever, try all the sports that they want. And you're going to start seeing, like, once they get into that middle school, the sports that they start gravitating to and things like that. I even agree that even at the next level, in 9th and 10th grade, that you should still let them play, as many sports as they can. Now it's tryouts. It's a different level. So, no, it's going to start weeding different people out and things like that. This is just from a sports perspective, you know. But by that like 11th and 12th grade year, you know what I mean? I feel like unless they're excelling in multiple sports, I do believe in specialization. And this is where, you know, a lot of people like have the disagreements with it is, you know, I think it is merit to, you know, if you see a student and they're passionate about it, then go all in on it and support them with it. So get those trainers and stuff like that, because I do believe that if you see a kid that loves it, because they got to love it. Like Coach Kev was saying, a lot of people saying that you got a lot of parents that, you know, they're living through their kids, you know what I mean? Or they have their dreams for their kids and they're putting it on them. So, but if you have a student that you know, they want to do the extra work, they ask you to go take them to the gym and stuff like that, they want to do those extra things, then it's up to you to kind of harness that, you know, because if they do something every single day, they are going to be better at it. You know, they are going to, you know, really excel in those certain things. So I think it's a matter of just being very vigilant. You know, you see a kid and they have that passion, they starting to show that love for it, they're doing those extra things. Then I feel like it's a time where it's like, all right, let's kind of, you know, it's a little slow for you in these sports. Like, let's kind of focus on this and really get better at it, because I think that it is value in specialization, because, you know, like I said, just doing those things over and over and working on those skills specific to that sport, I think that'll really maximize you as a student athlete into whatever respective sport. But like I said, that's definitely a hot topic in sports. So people definitely, you know, have different opinions on that, but that's just mine.
Yeah, I see that a lot of today's media is focused on the early evolution, and the youngest age athlete is they get more recognition nowadays. Like you look like in most sports, they accredit the youngest athlete of most sports that beats or can compete with the superior level of that particular sport. Primarily because they like to see the legacy of that superior athlete be tarnished. However, there's not a lot of middle ground when it comes to little league sports, because there's not a lot of programs in most communities. I know when I was growing up, everybody in my community, we all played basketball because it was free. I mean, most people didn't play other sports because it cost money. So, you know, as I was able to grow up, I wanted to make sure that as an adult, I'm able to provide sports to kids, as well as training to kids if they want it. Particularly, I try to get their parents involved, but a lot of times their parents not aware of their child's whereabouts. And I see that the child is able to be in places that the parent never know the child is able to be at. And that's how it was growing for me also. In my community, we were able to go places, go to different neighborhoods that my mom probably didn't know that we should have been in. You know what I mean? But we was able to make it home before the lights came on. So, you know, and that was the normal concept. You know, just don't have no scars to make our parents know that we was out of town, you know. But it still was a mindset that we had to embrace growing up, because that was all we had really, was to compete with sports that was free. If we had people that will be able to support or donate or sponsor kids of younger ages, or willing to give time back to kids for younger ages, it don't necessarily have to be for free. It could be something affordable. Like sometimes I charge my kids that don't pay money. They got to pay me in push-ups. They got to pay me in doing extra work. You know, it's free. So I shouldn't have to tell you to touch the lines on the workouts. You know, I shouldn't have to turn and look over my shoulder and see you cheating if you're not paying no money. You know, this is like, that's respect, for real. That's how I look at it, because the kid that pay that money, their parents is going to talk to them or confront them like, yo, why are you allowing that kid to outdo you? Because I'm paying top dollar for you to learn. And it's a difference of effort that goes into a kid that parent pays versus a kid that's getting it for free. Because that appreciation sometimes in that parent investing in their child probably can get all of those workouts and still not be as good as that kid that's going for free, or vice versa. It really doesn't. It really depends on that particular child, and the ability to want it for themselves, because the parent, like you said, can't want it for the child or the parent has to show some type of support for the child to go to a certain level, because that's also a way of them networking. As I see today, as for myself, I networked for myself when I was a younger adult. I didn't have people supervise for me, so I had to network for myself, and I made a lot of decisions that I shouldn't have made, that I shouldn't have had the ability to make, simply because it was the lack of guidance around me. But I learned from those mistakes, and I enhanced that, and I wasn't someone to make myself look as though I'm a victim of my consequences or of my decisions. So, you know, I guess it's about being realistic with yourself and having the people around you and that community around you to help uplift you as well, and not constantly feel like you competing against those alike, because that's how we often feel as a culture, is that we are competing with our partner, we are competing with our peers, our coworkers, our friends, if they have the same ideas as charities. It's just about uniting those ideas and trying to make a bigger plan and map for all of us to be able to eat at the same.
All right, thank you so much for that. So really quickly, these are all really, really good. This is a great conversation and a great discussion that's going on. But at this time, we want to thank Mr. T.Y. McGill for joining us on tonight. Thank you from the Philadelphia Eagles. We are so thankful for your wisdom and your time and your input on tonight. So thank you so much for joining us. And hopefully we'll be able to have you back with us again.
All right, it was a pleasure, for real. I appreciate you guys, and you guys be safe.
Thank you. All right, so going into our last question on tonight, Michael Jordan, Kobe's idol, said Kobe was the only person to ever approach Jordan's work ethic. How does work ethic translate into player performance on the field or court and in the classroom? And how does this also speak to the high school graduation rates in Black student athletes?
That's a very interesting question. I think work ethic. I always say this, and right now I'm really kind of just speaking in terms of football, because I don't coach basketball. I don't know enough about it, but I always say there's two type of people, right? You either a person that plays football or you're a football player, right? And a football player is going to go above and beyond to make sure everything they do is at 110%, right? And while the next man is sleeping, they're not worried about him sleeping because they're working. And then they feel like if I lay down, somebody else is out working me. So they get up and they go work, right? And then the person that plays football is, oh, my school has practice. I'm going to go to practice. But when practice is over, I'm going to go hang out and I'm going to have a good time. And I'm only going to work out when my school works out, right? That Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan drive is completely different than anything any of us has ever seen. These guys can play a 48-minute basketball game, and when everybody leaves the arena, they're back on the court practicing and getting up shots, right? They're there first thing, and they're the first ones in the gym, they're the last ones to leave. And in between all that, they're competing at a higher level than anybody. That competitive nature, that's not something you teach a person, right? It's either in you or it's not. Like I don't know how you can get somebody to that level. It's got to come from within. Kobe Bryant was different, and I think today's athlete, we have very few football players opposed to a very large amount of people that play football. And I think that work ethic is what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know the word I want to say. I know what I want to say. What did you say, Dev?
It's everything.
It's just it's everything. It's something that you just got to be in the short synopsis. You got to be a dog. Like, you just got to want it more than the next person. You can't feel like somebody is doing more than you and not do anything about it. You can't wake up in the morning and say, I'm gonna go to the mall with my homies. We're gonna go work out at 4 o'clock. No, I'm gonna work out first thing in the morning while my mind is clear of everything, and I can get 110% into it. And then once I get this 2-hour workout, I'm gonna go to the mall, pick up exactly what I need, and then I'm gonna go to a workout later on the day. And while y'all having fun, I'm gonna go work out some more, right? That's just something that's just different. Like you can't manufacture that. That's just gotta be, it's born in you. Your parents don't know about it. They just have to witness it like everyone else. I think Kobe surprised his parents. I think Jordan surprised his parents. You know, people are shocked that Michael Jordan, you know, got cut from the varsity team. And, you know, today he's one of the greatest players, the greatest athletes ever. But that's just a testament to his mindset and what he wanted to be as an individual.
Right. No, I truly really believe that work ethic is everything. You know, it's something that's innate. You know what I mean? It's something that can't be taught. And, you know, like, I always tell our players, you know, like, you know, the higher you get, you know, every level that you go to, you know, a lot of players, they rely on talent. But at some levels, when you get to that highest levels, whether it's, you know, certain levels of high school, definitely in college, and definitely if you're fortunate to go to the pros, everybody's talented. Like everybody is. So like, what's going to separate you? And another thing that I try to do with our players is like our slogan is best is the standard. So that's like a relentless pursuit of excellence every single day. And that applies to everything from the field to the classroom to the weight room to film sessions to life. So we're constantly looking to be the best. And one of the things I try to do is expand their mind. Like, you know, a lot of our student athletes, you know, especially in inner cities, their purview is everything that they see. So they're always thinking locally. I'm telling you, think national. You know, like, don't think about the guy that goes to the high school two counties over like that. You know, like, think about the ones that are, you know, in California, in Texas, in Florida, in Ohio, because those are the guys that you're competing for. And that's what kind of should drive you every single day. You know, so it's really about like expanding their mindsets and getting them to look at the bigger picture and not just so focused on just being local. You know what I mean? Like, think on the national, international level. And it might seem, you know, far-fetched for them, but if it's something that you constantly are ingraining in them, you know what I mean, they start to get that. And then that starts to help them like, all right, I really do need to work because I might be the best where I am, but it's a lot of me's all across the country. You know, so like that's really what's got to push me. And, you know, just to speak into the graduation rate, like, I mean, like, let's be honest, you know, like, we in an ideal world, you know, yeah, we want all of our students to just be motivated academically, but for some of our students, the student athletes, you know, that nugget or that carrot of the sports is what kind of gets them through. And so instead of, you know, like, you know, shunning that, you know, use that, you know, as the, like I said, like the carrot to make them do well and make them excel in that, because there's so many other things that you can start getting into once you use those, you know, athletics as the, you know, that conduit and not that end all be all, you know, so you can improve grades and things like that. Like Coach Kev was talking about, you can improve code switching, you know, you can improve that grit and, you know, their response to adversity. You know, you can have, we have practices of 2 hours, games are maybe 3 to 4 hours, you know, so that's a small part of that development. You know what I mean? Like everything else that goes outside of that, we're with them like way more. Like Coach Kev said, we're with them more than their parents a lot of the times. So we use those things to, you know, kind of get into, talks about social media, you know, and like how you carry yourself with that, how you brand yourself, you know, like you're a brand right now, and getting to think like that, because all of those things, when they start thinking about in the big picture, once again, taking an active role, not just their education, but just their careers, because that's what you want to look at as a career right now. You know what I mean? It's never too early to start. So all those things when considered, you know, you got to have that work ethic. And then in turn, you know, if you use it as that carrot, you can improve those graduation rates and improve grades and all those types of things. And, you know, like you just got to use athletics, you know, as that vehicle to do it.
And I want to add is that I really and truly believe that the system is what kind of throws our student athletes off. Most high school districts only require students to have barely a C average, a 2.0. So most of our student athletes are running right at a 2.0. So long as they remain eligible to play, we allow them to play, knowing that their GPA needs to be higher. So then when we're looking at putting that work ethic in the sports, we're not putting that same effort into those books. So therefore, when our student athletes get to that senior year, their GPA may be barely a 2.0. It may not even be that, but we've, like we say, like most athletes are, student athletes are either pushed on or given those extra credits, or go ahead and get that baby a 70 so he could keep playing this season. And then we don't know how that equates to graduation rates, as far as they're not passing the EOC at the end of each year. So they're having to repeat that class. So I think that that work ethic is important as far as the athletics, but we've got to find a way to translate that to say that we've got to reverse it and put that student first, because we have all the emphasis on the workouts, the trainings, and getting them in there at 5 o'clock in the morning, but they need to be at 5 p.m. at the Sullivan Learning Center getting a tutor. So we have to put that same emphasis on both ends of it, saying if you're going to be an athlete, you're going to train every day, 5 days out of the week, you need to have a book open 5 days out of the week as well. So the same effort that you put into the athletics, we have to put into the academics, and then we'll start to see those graduation rates rise in our African-American students, because they are the entertainment. And I'm just going to keep it 100. Like we're talking real, like they are the entertainment. And if they're going to be the entertainment, we have to tell our student athletes that while you shucking and jiving and running, chasing this ball, also be chasing that diploma and keep that on the forefront of your mind. Because if you do not, you will play for these people for 4 years, and you won't walk across that stage and everybody be looking like it's your fault, when it was all of our faults, all the coaches, the parents, the teachers, the counselors that didn't tell this student, let's reverse this. I see you in the gym at the Y 2 days a week or 2 times a day. Let's get you in this gym. Let's help you. So we have to change, again, going back to that coach is saying, let's put that emphasis. If you can dedicate yourself to working out at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, then you have to dedicate yourself to open up a book as well. Because you can play all 4 years, but then not be academically prepared to go to the post-secondary level, and then you're back at home with us. So we've got to put that emphasis on, if you're going to be an athlete and you understand that academics is a major part of you continuing to do your craft. And if this is something that you love to do, you got to love them books too. And if books are hard for you, then we have to give them those tools to get them prepared. But that is a major thing that I look at when I talk to student athletes, is saying that if you want to play sports, then you have to understand from the age of 12 and 6th grade, you're a student athlete. Even though we don't look at GPA and credits in middle school, we don't start until they get to 9th grade, but we have to start early in their elementary, saying, if you want to play sports, let me see your report card. If you want to do AAU, let me see that report card. Or you want to do 7-on-7, let me see that report card. And if that report card is not right, I love you. You can come out here and condition, but you can't compete. And we have to change that and we can still dangle the carrot, but we have to say it's something that comes with this carrot. It's nutrients, it's vitamins, it's going to help you get to a different level. So we have to change that mindset, saying that if you're going to be a student athlete, put the emphasis on the student and the athlete, 50-50. That's the way I look at it. I got real passionate about that. I'm sorry. I'm very passionate about the word.
Nah, that was beautiful.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah, because and that's where we're work ethic. As far as the work ethic part, I believe that's kind of a double-edged sword, because and this is coming from 2 different lifestyles of football, and then I'm also a combat veteran. You can end up with that MJ Kobe like work mentality, but like for me, it was tragedy. And I tell these kids all the time, don't let tragedy push your work ethic, because certain things happen, and then I was like, well, I gotta now. I ain't got no other choice. It's either this or death, or it's either this or I'm gonna end up in the streets, doing something I don't have no business doing. So that started when I already had I was always very athletic. So when I had the threat of everything being taken away from me as a child, that's when my work ethic kicked in, as far as the book wise, but as far as just being an athlete, like Coach said, when I found that passion, I was that dude with snow up to my knees. I'm on the track, still running around the track, so that part of it, some of it is innate, but like other stuff had to happen too as well to actually make it go even farther. What was the other part of that question? The graduation rate. from Detroit, like that. If we didn't have sports, I'm gonna say 90% of the males wouldn't graduate. I straight up, like about 90% probably wouldn't graduate if they didn't have athletics. It was the only reason why we probably would be in school in the first place. Yeah.
And that actually still happens now. And I feel like at the high school level, a lot of the kids, they do enough to get by. A 70 is passing, I'm going to do the bare minimum and I'm done with it. I got my credit for that class. I don't have to worry about it anymore. But a lot of our athletes, they have the mentality, okay, I want to go to the next level, but they don't know everything they have to meet that next level. Your GPA matters. Starting in 9th grade, you can't just goof off and fail those classes and come back, credit recovery, make up that credit. It matters. You have to have the GPA to pass the clearinghouse to go to certain schools, and they don't know this. They don't know it. And when you tell them, okay, well, that was a long time ago, that was 10 years for you, you don't know that, or it's not that way now. It is. And we have to come in and educate them on the next level. They do not understand that. And I feel like, you know, those of us that have been there and are in positions to inform them and teach them these things, they need to know this before the 12th grade, before that crunch time where, okay, graduation is right here. You need to know freshman year, if you want to graduate high school and go play ball in college, this is what you have to have. This is the criteria you're going to have to meet. And that's for the classroom. Somebody spoke earlier about social media, how you portray yourself. All of that matters when you're going to the next level. And we really have to educate these kids on that stuff because I didn't know it. I didn't know it going in. And doing the clearinghouse, that's a lot of work. And not having somebody there to teach me or have put, you know, those skills or that knowledge in me early, had I not cared about my grades and took an active role in my education, I would have been in a mess. And a lot of our athletes right now are, because they simply don't know this other stuff outside of what they need for high school.
Thank you so much. This is such a great conversation. We have to end it at this point. However, I do want to recap this last little bit because there was just so much in there discussing the graduation rates and work ethic and how that plays a role on and off the field. So we want to ensure that our student athletes are playing an active role in their education, making sure they're involved, making sure that they are well informed at the information that they need in order to progress to the next level, whether that is for a clearinghouse or getting applying for scholarships or taking the SAT, or just making sure that their grades are, you know, above what they should be. So that way they have that room. We want to ensure that they're being held accountable for sports as well as academics. That 50-50, not lopsided. It has to be 50-50. Make sure that they are being held accountable for sports as well as academics. And I like what Coach B said earlier of giving that mindset of abundance. And that way they are shooting for the stars and in all aspects. And then we want them to see the bigger picture of the matter, allow them to see greater, see beyond what's in their current bubble, see beyond their city, see beyond their community. We want them to see that bigger picture. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Thank you to our viewers. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you so much. I want to take this opportunity to give you all a time to just let everyone know where you can be reached. If you offer services, how you can be reached for those services, or if you just want to showcase your student athletes on your platforms, if that's what you're doing, please share your platform with us as I reintroduce our panelists. First, we had T.Y. McGill Jr., defensive tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles. He is also founder and owner of Overtime Athletics, and you can find them at otathletics.com. Next, we have Coach Dev Johnson. Coach Dev, is there any contact information or how our viewers can continue to watch you progress your student athletes moving forward?
Yes, my Instagram is Coach 2 underscores DJ. That's my personal Instagram. So I post a lot about our players and, like my personal life and stuff like that. But for updates on Imhotep, we have our TEP football page. Instagram page is TEP football, just like that. So you can get all of our updates about our upcoming spring season, something we're very excited about. And then the upcoming fall season. And my email is djohnson@imhotepcharter.org, as well as you had any other questions and things like that. And thank you for having me on this panel. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. And that is Coach Dev Johnson. He is the head football coach at Imhotep Institute Charter High School, ranked #1 in Pennsylvania. Next, we have Coach B, the founder and eligibility specialist for Moving Without the Ball.
Hi, yes. And again, thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity. This was absolutely amazing. Thank you to all the panelists that were here. My company is called Moving Without the Ball, where we provide information and tools to parents, coaches, and student athletes to ensure that they get the plays they want off the playing field. We host workshops, eligibility workshops, where we talk about those things that they need, the GPA, the right courses. We give them a 4-year game plan. We also give them a workbook where it gives them the information that they need. Our goal is to make sure that our student athletes are not just being prepared for sports right now, but being prepared for the post-secondary. We ensure that they have the tools that they need to move forward to make the right plays. We involve the parents, the coaches, so you can reach us at MOWOTB, MOWOTB.com. You can find us on Facebook at Moving Without the Ball. You can find us on Instagram at Moving Without the Ball, underscores between each words. And again, we are here just to provide that information because as you guys see tonight is that's the biggest thing, that we're either ill-informed or misinformed. And once we can give that information out, I think that we can change the mindset and the culture of our student athletes and our community. So again, Moving Without the Ball, Coach B. You can catch us on Facebook, Instagram, or MOWOTB.com. And thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Coach B. And that is Coach B, founder and eligibility specialist for Moving Without the Ball. All right, up next we have Coach Kevin Norris, assistant head football coach at Imhotep Charter High School.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate you guys having me on today. This was a lot of fun. Shout out to Imhotep African Center School in Philadelphia. It's a family. It's more than a job. It's what we love. So I love being at Imhotep. If you want to reach me, my Imhotep email is knorris@imhotepcharter.org. Coach Dev gave our Instagram at Tep Football. That's also our Twitter, and our Facebook is Imhotep. What is it? Imhotep Panther Football State Champs on Facebook. So give us a holler if you got some kids in Philly. Send them our way.
Thank you so much, Coach Kev. That is Coach Kev Norris, assistant head football coach at Imhotep Charter High School. Next, we have Coach Caela LaRochester, head junior varsity basketball coach, assistant varsity girls basketball coach at Long County High School.
Hey, I don't have a platform or anything like that, but if you have any questions or anything like that, you can feel free to contact me on my Facebook page or email me at larochester11@gmail.com. Thank y'all so much for having me.
Thank you so much again, Caela. That is Caela LaRochester. She is the head junior varsity basketball coach, assistant varsity girls basketball coach at Long County High School. Up next, we have Mr. Danny Pendleton. Danny is the basketball player development specialist and educator for the District of Philadelphia.
Thank you for having me. I just wanted to clear that up. I don't work for the District of Philadelphia. I am a former teacher within the city of Philadelphia for 8 years. I also was a coach for over 8 years as well at various schools. But, I just want to say rest in peace, Kobe. I know we definitely did something for an analogy using him and Michael Jordan. So I want to say rest in peace, Kobe. I grew up watching him play for a slight bit of years. And he was a very dominant player, and I was glad to even hear his name being mentioned, being as though his memorabilia was just really showcased about a month ago for a year of his passing. So just want to say that. You can contact me via social media, Instagram, Coach Danny _P, or positive community actions, which we also provide low cost as well as free activities for our communities throughout urban communities, not just here in Philadelphia, but also we're trying to expand coast to coast to every community. So that way we have activities for our youth as well as adults and adolescents in every community, because I see that our culture works better when we are occupied and we have something as a, I would say, an outlet for our community. So therapeutic process, everything from jump rope competitions to basketball competitions to jacks competitions as well. You know, we just hope to promote some activities for our community, things that help to unify our communities. We don't mind giving out trophies, you know, so, you know.
Thank you so much, Danny. And that is Danny Pendleton with Positive Community Action, bringing communities together and providing opportunities for youth in your community. And up next, we have Coach Katal Yancey. He is the co-founder of the legendary Black Lions Incorporated nonprofit youth organization and owner and head coach of the legendary Black Lions football. How can you be reached?
We can be reached on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all Legendary Black Lions. And you can also reach us legendaryblacklions@gmail. Our program is basically designed to start early with the kids. We start at the age of 6 and start building them up to be student athletes and starting to prepare them for life. If they make it and if they don't make it, when they decide to stop their sport, to have, you know, something in mind to do. And that's what we do. We just try to develop them early and trying to help get them out this community and expand and see more, what's our word? Exposure. Try to get them more exposure. Yeah, that's where I can be reached at. Thank y'all for having me on as well.
Thank you all so much. To all of our viewers, I just want to say thank you all as well for tuning in. Thank you to our panelists for joining us. And now I will pass it back over to neuroeducator Posey as she tells you all about NeuroAdvanced Academics, who we are, what we do, and what we have coming up next.
Thank you all so much for the amazing wisdom and for adding depth to this topic on tonight. To our panelists, thank you so much. We are NeuroAdvanced Academics, which is an educational firm that uses neuroscience-based practices to educate and to cultivate the innate genius in children. So what does that mean? We help develop the brain and we take off the limits of learning for our students. So we have a program where we teach 3 to 5-year-olds calculus. And so people that are scholars that have matriculated through that program, they end up in kindergarten testing into gifted programs. We have an inventors and innovations course. And then we also start teaching 6-month-old babies. So normally our students, by the time they reach 1 year old, they are reading and doing mathematics skills. We're super excited about launching a program for student athletes where we have taken the neuroscience and applied it to the game. So we teach student athletes how to strategically figure out how that geometry and physics and court visibility plays into the neuroscience with really mastering the game strategically. So we're super excited to be launching this program, which is not available to everywhere. It's specifically designed by us and with techniques that we've actually created. We're super excited. As you can see, this conversation had a lot of depth to it. So we decided to do a part 2 where we are going to have some NFL moms, some NBA moms to join us on next week. So you want to look out for that flyer. And we're also going to have a part 2 to our African that our history began before slavery. We're also going to have a part 2 on that segment. So you want to join in, you want to tune in, and you want to follow NeuroAdvanced Academics and NeuroA Academics. Again, that's NeuroA Academics on Instagram or here on Facebook. And you can schedule a complimentary consultation. So all you have to do is click on a button and schedule a complimentary consultation with us. So thank you all for joining us on tonight. Make sure you reshare this and reach out to our guests or our expert panelists on tonight. And thank you all so much again for joining us and for being with us on tonight.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Yes, and thank you so
Thank you,
much
ladies. Good
again.
night.